ADR. Promoting dialogue. It's made there in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Senegal's former President Macky Sall fights complaint against Ousmane Sonko's candidacy in the build-up to the parliamentary election.
The chances are there for everybody to grab. There are advantages and disadvantages. What is important is now it will be now up to the Constitutional Council to tell the Senegalese what the law says.
Captain Traoré suspends VOA over radio program likely to undermine the Burkinabe and Malian armed forces. A court in Accra grants bail to 21 Democracy Hub activists for unlawful assembly and demonstration against illegal mining.
We're happy they are out there, that they are seeing the sun of liberty. I think that for misdemeanors, some of the conditions are a bit, 70,000 and all of that.
And a new Wendy report warns against widespread drug trafficking and consumption in West Africa. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Augustine Coley with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. We begin here in Senegal as the General Directorate of Elections has released the provisional list of political parties and coalitions approved for the upcoming early legislative elections in November. A total of 41 names have been validated. Among them are the ruling party PASTEF, a list led by former President Macky Sall, the one headed by Dakar's Mayor Barthélémy Dias, and the list led by former Prime Minister Amadou Ba, who was an unsuccessful candidate in the last presidential election. But what are the forces at play in this completely redefined political landscape? Here is a breakdown in this report by Alpha Abubakar and voiced by H.A. Atisu.
Out of the 48 submitted lists, 41 have been validated by the General Directorate of Elections. Firstly, the ruling party PASTEF, which plans to run independently in these legislative elections. Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko, who is also the party president, has been designated as the head of the list, which also includes several senior party members, including Abbas Fall, who leads the list in the Dakar department. The coalition list that includes the Liberals has also been validated. It is led by President Macky Sall. As the president of the Alliance for the Republic, APR, the former head of state is accompanied by his loyal supporters, including former National Assembly President Amadou Mame Diop, former Justice Minister Aissata Tall Sall, and former Deputy Abdou Mbow. The list led by Prime Minister Amadou Ba, who recently left the former ruling party, has also been approved. While waiting to launch his own political party, he hopes to win seats in parliament with other defectors from the former ruling party, including Sheikh Umar An. Another coalition authorized to participate in the upcoming legislative elections is the one led by the current mayor of Dakar, Barthélémy Dias. Alongside him are two unsuccessful candidates from the last presidential elections, Anta Babaka Ngom and Dethi Fall, as well as journalist and former deputy Papa Jibri Fall. Parties, coalitions and movements whose lists have been rejected have 24 hours to appeal to the Constitutional Council. It should be noted that the election campaign will run from October 27 to November 15. The date for these early legislative elections has been set for November 17, where candidates will compete for the 165 available seats in Parliament.
That was Alpha Abubakar's report, voiced by H.A. Atisu. Meanwhile, the opposition coalition, Taku Walu Senegal, led by former President Macky Sall, has filed an appeal against the candidacy of Ousmane Sonko, head of the ruling party PASTEF, in the lead-up to the November 2024 legislative elections. Represented by lawyer Anthony Mbenge, the appeal was submitted to the Constitutional Council on Monday, October 7, 2024. The TWS coalition is raising concerns over Sonko's eligibility, citing a previous ruling by the Constitutional Council that invalidated his candidacy in a judicial election due to a prior conviction. This appeal has been officially registered and acknowledged by the Clerk of Court Usman Ba. As the nation awaits the court's decision, this development has ignited significant political discussions with potential implications for the upcoming legislative campaign. The Gambia on Monday welcomed its first tourist flight of the 2024 season. The arrival of these eager visitors signals the formal start of what is expected to be a promising tourist season. The Gambia is a popular tourist destination as thousands of visitors annually visit the country for its many sunny weather and beautiful sand beaches. Our Banjul correspondent, Sankule Janko, has more in this report.
At the Banjul International Airport, a sense of anticipation filled the air. The first tourist flight of the 2024 season touched down, signaling a fresh chapter for the Gambia's tourism sector. A total of 177 passengers emerged, eyes wide with wonder as they were greeted by traditional music and warm smiles. Some of the tourists shared their excitements upon arriving in the Gambia.
The nice weather, of course, the animals and the nice people.
We are smiling, and this is the smiling coast, so we want to smile together with you.
I love Africa. I love everything about Africa. I love the weather, I love the people, I love the music, I love the nature, everything.
To see some wildlife, to relax, maybe to eat some nice fish, I don't know.
Tourism is crucial for the Gambia, not only for generating revenue, but also for promoting local culture and heritage. The Gambia aims to attract more visitors than ever this year. Hasum Sise is the airport manager and says more flights are expected in the coming weeks.
But at the moment, we'll be having 2 flights from Holland, and by November, we start to have another 4 flights from the UK, 2 from Manchester and 2 from London Gatwick. So we are very, very excited, and we just pray that this season will be a rich free season.
This moment was more than just an arrival. It marked the lifeblood of an economy that relies heavily on tourism, which contributes around 20% to the nation's GDP. Local markets, hotels, and tour operators are poised for the influx of visitors, ready to showcase the beauty of sandy beaches, rich wildlife, and colorful culture. Flusing West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sankule Janko reporting from Banjul.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Now to the Sahel region, particularly in Burkina Faso. The Higher Council for Communication, CSC, on Monday announced a 3-month suspension of the Voice of America programs. This decision follows the broadcast of a September 19, 2024 segment on the Washington Forum program aired by Wadr FM radio, which the CSC deemed likely to undermine the morale of the Burkinabe and Malian armed forces. According to the CSC, the program featured a speaker who characterized a recent terrorist attack in Bamako as courageous and downplayed the military's efforts against terrorism, particularly referencing the Basaloko incident. Additionally, the Higher Council for Communication criticized the VOA for presenting unverified casualty figures from the attack without credible sources. In Cote d'Ivoire, the General Secretary of the Student and School Federation, FEFC, and several other students were placed in pre-trial detention. They have been prosecuted in the case of the murder of 2 students, the most recent of which occurred a week ago. Since then, the authorities have taken these cases very seriously. They have caused emotion and indignation in the country. Here is Albin Ade's report from Abidjan and voiced by Christopher Aticho.
The Secretary General of the Student and School Federation of Cote d'Ivoire, Kambo Sey, was summoned to the Criminal Police Headquarters, implicated in the murder of student Mas Dago, alias General Sorcerer. He responded to the summons. After the police hearing, he was taken before the prosecutor, as were 5 other students also implicated in the case. The senior investigating judge subsequently opened a judiciary investigation into the matter. They were all suspected of participating in the act of criminal association, murder, and complicity in murder and fatal blows. They were all then placed in custody. A statement from the public prosecutor said, "The prosecution also indicated that another legal procedure was also underway against them following the complaint filed by Metro Ibrahim Diomande, lawyer of brother of Khalifa Diomande, a student who was allegedly killed by members of FESI, the main student union in Côte d'Ivoire. According to the initial findings of the investigation, he was killed after an argument over a university scholarship.
Christopher Aticho voiced that report sent in by Abidjan correspondent Albin Adey. In Accra, Ghana's capital, 21 Democracy Hub protesters have been granted bail, while lead convener of the group and activist Oliver Barker-Moore and one more person are to remain in custody after their bail application were refused. The latest court decision came after an appeal filed by lawyers against a circuit court's decision to remand the 53 protesters into custody after their involvement in the Democracy Hub protests to demand an immediate end to the illegal mining mandates in Ghana. WADR Rotsna reports.
The accused protesters were split into two groups with separate courts handling each set of cases. The first group, made up of Elom Abebiu, popularly known as Ama Governor, and 8 others, faced charges in one court. The court set bail at 70,000 Ghana cedis, approximately $4,423 each, with 2 sureties. As part of the bail conditions, they are required to report to the police once a week and deposit their Ghana cards with the court registry. In the second group, 12 protesters, including Felicity Nelson, were granted bail in the sum of 20,000 Ghana cedis, approximately $1,263 each. But lead convener of Democracy Hub and activist Oliver Barker-Moore was denied bail due to concerns he might re-offend, as he was already out on bail for treason charges. The court directed that the prosecution must commence within 72 hours or he may be granted bail. A member of the legal team for the protesters, Philemon La, expressed excitement over the bail granted to some of the protesters, but questioned the bail conditions set for the accused persons.
We're happy they are out there, that they are seeing the sun of liberty. I think that for Ms. Demeanor, some of the conditions I read, 70,000 and all of that, I think that they should have been, government worker. Some quite simpler terms. But be that as it may, I think that we are ready to meet those conditions.
He also responded to President Akufo-Addo's recent comments during an interview where the president stated that he had no hand in the arrest and remand of the protesters, adding that it was the behavior of the protesters that led to their troubles.
Well, I disagree entirely with the words of the president. Sometimes I wonder if the president is still living up to the tenets of the legal profession. We are taught in law school to everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty. So on what basis would the president call them as people that have misconducted themselves? Which court has declared them as people that have misconducted themselves to the extent that the president of the land, the custodian of the constitution, will declare them as people who have misconducted themselves?
Meanwhile, appeal applications have been filed on behalf of the remaining 30 protesters who were remanded by the court 2 weeks ago. For WADR, Nadidi Teti, Accra.
Away from Ghana, President Bola Tinubu has called on Nigeria's judiciary to avoid delays and focus on the substance of corruption cases, describing corruption as a cancer hindering the nation's progress. He made this appeal through Vice President Kashim Shettima at the 6th Economic and Financial Crimes Commission National Judicial Institute Capacity Building Workshop for Justices and Judges in Abuja. Usma Umar reports.
President Tinubu, speaking through his vice, Senator Kashim Shettima, emphasized the need to tackle frivolous appeals, intimidation of judges, and judgments based on technicalities.
We are not oblivious of some challenges that continue to impede the speedy adjudication of corruption cases. They include frivolous applications and appeals, many delayed trial, intimidation of judges by counsel, and judgment based not on the facts of cases but on technicalities. It is my expectation that this workshop will interrogate these issues, and more importantly, I believe this event presents an opportunity for the bar and the bench to improve their capacity in dealing with emerging topologies of financial crimes.
The president also highlighted the complexity of financial crimes, citing cryptocurrency fraud, and urged the judiciary to enhance its capacity to handle these emerging challenges. Chief Justice of Nigeria, Kudirat Kekere Ekun, pledged the judiciary's support and commitment to the anti-graft campaign through capacity-building initiatives.
Financial crimes such as money laundering, fraud, terrorist financing, bribery and corruption, insider trading, and cybercrime are pervasive challenges that pose significant threats to the Nigerian economy and indeed the global economic system. The consequences of these crimes are far-reaching, adversely affecting financial systems and hampering social and political stability. Moreover, financial crimes in Nigeria often transcend borders, making international collaboration essential.
The workshop is part of the administration's broader strategy to strengthen the nation's anti-corruption efforts. Key government initiatives such as the Student Loan Fund and Consumer Credit Scheme aim to reduce economic pressures that may lead to corrupt practices. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of the top stories. Senegal's former President Macky Sall files complaint against Ousmane Sonko's candidacy in the build-up to the parliamentary election. Captain Traoré suspends VOA over radio program likely to undermine the Burkinabe and Malian armed forces. A court in Accra grants bail to 21 democracy herb activists for unlawful assembly and demonstration against illegal mining. Still ahead in the news, a new Wadr report warns against widespread drug trafficking and consumption in West Africa. We do have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
Thanks for being with us. And as a reminder, we're streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Now, a new report warns of drug trafficking and consumption in West Africa. The situation is becoming increasingly worrisome, says the West African Epidemiology Network on Drug Consumption. More details from General Alpha Ibrahim Baide, voiced by Oge Obiorika.
This report published yesterday, Monday, indicates that cannabis remains the most widespread drug in West African region, representing almost 90% of seizures made in 2023. According to the organization's report, cocaine remains the second most consumed drug in West Africa. The document indicates an increase in cocaine seizures in the region compared to the previous year. In 2023, more than 7,500 kilograms of cocaine were seized, an alarming increase in the circulation of this drug in the region, the report added. Furthermore, according to the document, pharmaceutical opioids, particularly tramadol, also constitutes a major concern. The report also highlights the emergence of new drugs such as Kush, consumed in Sierra Leone, the Gambia, and more recently, Senegal. It must be stated that in writing this report, only 11 West African countries agreed to provide their data to be used. The document sheds light on the production and circulation of drugs in West Africa, which in recent years has become a hub for cocaine trafficking between South America and Europe, according to experts. To meet the challenge of the fight against drugs, the West African Epidemiology Network on Drug Consumption recommends regional and international cooperation.
That was General Alpha Ibrahim Baide's report, voiced by Oge Obiorika.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Let's now join Christopher, a teacher in the Ghanaian capital, Accra, for the press review.
Thank you very much and welcome to Newspaper Review. Here are some top stories making headlines in Ghana, where the various dailies are actually reporting. Front page of the Ghanaian Times, the most authoritative newspaper, says VIP launches new government-based app to promote transparency and maximize revenue for national development. Story is on page 12. Flash out illegal miners on water bodies, Minerals Commission to government, and this has the story and the picture of CEO of the Minerals Commission, Martin Kweku AEC. And away from the Ghanaian Times, let's turn attention to the Daily Graphic, which says truth and accuracy every day. Front page, Galamsey crackdown, government rolls out radical measures. 1. President orders military deployment to LI 2462 to be revoked. Water bodies, forest reserves, red zones, which is the third point or third measure, and picture of the president Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo over here as well. And Citizens app launched for government services. The Hawk newspaper this morning is reporting mining boss raised geological survey budget to crash Galamsey, and story is on the front page of the Hawk newspaper. Mohammed's returned a warning to wrongdoers, says Esiedu Nketia. Esiedu Nketia is the chairman of the opposition party, the National Democratic Congress. We won't sacrifice our water for votes, and this is by Minister for Works and Housing, Kojo Opon Nkrumah, as well as Member of Parliament for Ofuasin Eyiribi, as well as David Ansa Opoku, Member of Parliament for Empire, so all standing firm against illegal mining in the country. That ends it for this morning's newspaper review. These have been some of the stories that the various dailies have been reporting. My name is Christopher Aticho. Back to you in Dakar.
Thank you, Chris, for the press review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
Our guest this afternoon is Professor Golgi Jen, a Senegalese political analyst. He speaks about the release of the provisional list of political parties and coalitions approved for the upcoming parliamentary elections, as well as a compelling fight by the major opposition Takuwalu coalition headed by former President Macky Sall.
I believe that the lists are long, 42, and maybe they will be some problems on the day because each candidate has got to pick up 42 ballots. Maybe the Constitutional Council will find a solution to that, maybe allow people to take maybe at least 7 ballots or 6 or 5. But if they don't do this, that will be very difficult for the voters to vote correctly. And we may be moving towards nice competition.
With that being said, how would you describe the chances of the two major coalition, that is the ruling PASTEF and that of the opposition Takuwalu Senegal, that is being led by former President Macky Sall?
Well, the chances are there for everybody to grab. There are advantages and disadvantages for the ruling party. I believe the advantage is that they voted in 7 months ago by 45% of the voters. Maybe they count on this and believe that they will keep that and then get maybe the same percentage in the next elections. That is an advantage. The disadvantage for them is that since they have been here, that is to say 6 months, much hasn't been done. People are still waiting for the changes for which they voted. Maybe some prices have been said to be reduced, but on the ground, there is nothing that can be seen. Also, there has been also some problems. People have been arrested, and some people believe that we are witnessing the emergence of some sort of dictatorship, and it can be harmful to the ruling party. Now, regarding the coalition of the former president, the disadvantage is they got defeated 7 months ago. Maybe people were fed with the old system. And this is the reason why they elected the PASTEF leader, or one of the PASTEF leaders. That is a disadvantage. But there is some advantage that a coalition also have, that to say maybe they will build on the mistakes, and there are many made by the ruling party since they took over. That's to say the arrest of many former leaders, the muzzling of the press, and then the soaring of some prices, even though officially the government has said that they have reduced the prices. So these are the advantages the former president's list can have.
Now, the former President Macky Sall, through the major opposition coalition TACU, has filed a complaint against the legitimacy of Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko's candidacy ahead of the November legislative elections. How would you describe this move?
Well, I mean, it's possible for any coalition or even any candidate to file against other candidate or another coalition. That it is the law that allows them to do so. Now, the head of the list of the ruling party, the current prime minister, normally, if you take into account what the law says, he shouldn't be on any lists. Yet he voted during the last election, the presidential election. I don't know how it's happened, because if you are sentenced for more than 6 months for crimes like defamation, you are not allowed to vote. You are not even allowed to be on the list. I don't know now what happened which enabled that person to be on the list and then to vote. What is important is, now it will be now up to the Constitutional Council to tell the Senegalese what the law says.
Professor Golgi Jen is a Senegalese political analyst. And here is Sankule Janko with the latest in the sporting world.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Ghana international Thomas Partey has pulled out of the national team and will remain in Arsenal due to injury, according to media reports. Despite starting the weekend match win over Southampton, the midfield anchor will miss the double-legged tie for the Black Stars games with Sudan in the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. A statement released by the Ghana Football Association indicates that Thomas is unable to join the Black Stars due to medical issues he is currently experiencing, and his club has scheduled him for further tests in the coming days. However, the nature of the injury is yet to be confirmed. Partey's absence will be a big blow to the Black Stars, who failed to register a win in the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers after 2 matches. The game against Sudan is a must-win game for the Black Stars to stand any chance of qualification. And Ibrahim Cisse has received his first international call-up to the Mali national football team for this week's AFCON qualifier against Guinea-Bissau. The centre-back had been a regular for the Mali under-23 national side and was recently part of their team to compete at the Olympic Games in Paris. However, head coach Tom Samphe has opted to give Ibrahim his first senior call-up. Mali will take on Guinea-Bissau in a double encounter in qualifying for the Africa Cup of Nations. The first match is scheduled for Friday 11 in Bamako before the return leg in Guinea-Bissau on Tuesday 15 October 2024. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Christian Mukidi and Maudo Juf for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. I am Augustine Cully. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via